For years, millions of Americans watched a family build something truly unique, not just a television show, but a legacy. A sprawling farm in Oregon, a place filled with pumpkins, childhood memories, and decades of family history. To fans of the long-running reality series Little People, Big World, Roloff Farms has always been more than land. It represents the heart of the Roloff family story. But behind the scenes, a quiet question has been growing louder. A question that has stirred debate among fans, sparked speculation across social media, and even raised concerns about the future of the farm itself. Why hasn't Jeremy Roloff, the eldest son of Matt and Amy Roloff, taken over the property? And perhaps more importantly, why does his wife, Audrey Roloff, reportedly feel uncertain about the idea of buying it? For years, many viewers believed Jeremy and Audrey would eventually inherit the farm. In fact, Jeremy himself once expressed interest in taking it over. But things didn't go the way fans expected. Negotiations stalled. The property went up for sale. Family relationships appeared strained. And now, according to comments the couple has made publicly, Audrey may not be completely convinced that purchasing Roloff Farms is the right decision for their family. So what really happened behind the scenes? Was it a financial issue? A disagreement within the family? Or something deeper about lifestyle, priorities, and the reality of managing a massive property tied to a television legacy? Tonight, we take a deep dive into the story behind the uncertainty, the history of Roloff Farms, and the complicated crossroads facing Jeremy and Audrey Roloff. Because what happens next could shape the future of one of reality television's most recognizable family properties. And the truth may be far more complicated than fans realize. To understand why Audrey Roloff might feel hesitant about purchasing Roloff Farms, we have to go back, far before the conversations about property deals and potential ownership ever began. The Roloff family first entered American living rooms in 2006 with the debut of the TLC reality series Little People, Big World. The show quickly gained popularity because it offered something viewers rarely saw on television at the time, an honest look at life inside a family where both parents, Matt Roloff and Amy Roloff, have dwarfism, while several of their children do not. Audiences were drawn to the family's authenticity, humor, and the everyday challenges they faced. But another character quickly became central to the show's identity: Roloff Farms. Located in Helvetia, Oregon, just outside Portland, the property spans more than 100 acres and became famous for its elaborate pumpkin season events. Every fall, thousands of visitors travel to the farm for pumpkin picking, tours, and seasonal attractions. For fans of the show, the farm symbolized the family's shared dream. Matt Roloff had spent years developing the property, building structures, creating attractions, and expanding the farm into a business. Viewers watched Jeremy Roloff grow up there. Alongside his twin brother Zach, Jeremy experienced many of the formative moments that audiences witnessed on television. And for a long time, it seemed natural that one of the children might eventually take over the farm. Jeremy, who is not a little person, was often seen helping his father with projects around the property. He expressed interest in entrepreneurship and creative work. Fans assumed that the farm might one day become his responsibility. But as the years went on, the Roloff family dynamic began to change. In 2014, Jeremy married Audrey Roloff, a runner, blogger, and influencer who had built a following online through lifestyle content and writing. Their relationship quickly became a major focus of fan interest. The couple presented themselves publicly as faith-driven entrepreneurs focused on marriage, family values, and creative business ventures. But by 2018, Jeremy and Audrey made a decision that surprised many viewers. They stepped away from Little People, Big World. In a public statement at the time, Jeremy explained that the couple wanted to focus on their own projects, family life, and personal goals outside of reality television. The move marked a turning point. Without the show as a central part of their lives, their future connection to Roloff Farms became less certain. Meanwhile, tensions within the family began to surface publicly. Matt and Amy Roloff went through a highly publicized divorce, finalized in 2016. The division of the farm property became part of the complicated process that followed. Eventually, Amy sold her portion of the farmland to Matt. That decision left Matt as the primary owner and decision-maker regarding the future of the property. And that's where the next chapter of the story begins. Because when the possibility of one of the Roloff children purchasing the farm emerged, things didn't unfold as many fans expected. To you outsiders, Roloff Farms may appear to be simply a successful agricultural property. But for the Roloff family and the millions of viewers who watched their journey, it carries deep emotional meaning. The farm represents decades of work by Matt Roloff, who often described building the property as his dream. From pirate ships and castles to elaborate play structures for his children, Matt turned the farm into a creative playground that viewers saw evolve over time. For Jeremy and Zach, the farm was essentially their childhood home. Every tree, field, and building carries memories. But the reality of inheriting or purchasing such a property is far more complex than nostalgia. Roloff Farms is not just sentimental land. It's a business. Maintaining over 100 acres requires significant financial investment, ongoing labor, taxes, insurance, and operational management. During pumpkin season alone, the farm attracts thousands of visitors. Running that operation requires planning, staffing, marketing, and infrastructure. Owning the property would mean stepping into a demanding entrepreneurial role. And that's one of the factors that appears to weigh heavily in discussions about whether Jeremy and Audrey should pursue ownership. In 2022, a major development shocked fans of Little People, Big World. Matt Roloff announced that part of Roloff Farms would be listed for sale. The decision came after negotiations with family members, particularly Jeremy and Zach, reportedly failed to produce an agreement. According to statements Matt shared publicly, discussions had taken place about one of the children purchasing the property. But ultimately, a deal was never finalized. While exact details were not disclosed publicly, the situation sparked widespread speculation. Some fans believed the asking price was too high. Others suspected disagreements over how the property should be managed. Zach Roloff later spoke openly on the show about frustrations surrounding the negotiations. He suggested that the discussions did not unfold the way he had hoped. Jeremy, who had already stepped away from the show, addressed the topic more subtly through comments and social media posts. But one thing became clear. Buying Roloff Farms was not as simple as many fans once believed. And within that complicated picture, Audrey Roloff's perspective also began to attract attention. Because in several public comments and podcast discussions, Audrey hinted that purchasing the farm might not align perfectly with their family's long-term plans. Over the past several years, Jeremy and Audrey Roloff have built a life that looks quite different from the one they once had on the farm. The couple runs several business ventures together. They host a podcast. They write books about relationships and marriage. They maintain an active social media presence where they share family life with their children. Their lifestyle today revolves around entrepreneurship, content creation, and speaking engagements. Owning Roloff Farms would represent a very different kind of responsibility. It would likely require a major shift in how they spend their time, where they live, and how they manage their businesses. In various conversations, Audrey has emphasized the importance of protecting family time and maintaining balance between work and parenting. Running a large agricultural property with a major seasonal tourist operation could significantly disrupt that balance. And according to comments the couple has made publicly, that reality may play a role in their hesitation. But that's only part of the story. Because behind the uncertainty lies a much bigger question about the future of Roloff Farms itself. When viewers first heard that discussions had taken place about one of the Roloff children purchasing part of the farm, many assumed the process would be straightforward. After all, Roloff Farms wasn't just any property. It was the setting that helped make the family famous. For years on Little People, Big World, fans watched Matt Roloff openly talk about the dream of eventually passing the farm down to the next generation. It seemed logical. One day, one of the kids would take over. The legacy would continue. But as often happens in real life, especially when business, family, and property ownership intersect, things turned out to be far more complicated. According to statements Matt Roloff made publicly in 2022, conversations did take place with his sons about purchasing a portion of the farm. Matt said that both Jeremy and Zach had expressed interest at different times. However, those discussions eventually reached an impasse. Matt later explained in social media posts that multiple family members were interested, but no agreement could be reached that worked for everyone involved. While the exact details of those negotiations were never fully revealed, the fallout quickly became visible. And it didn't take long for tensions to surface publicly. The most direct glimpse into what happened behind the scenes came from Jeremy's twin brother, Zach Roloff. Unlike Jeremy and Audrey, Zach and his wife Tori remained active participants on Little People, Big World. During episodes that aired after the failed negotiations, Zach spoke candidly about his disappointment. He revealed that he and Tori had hoped to buy a portion of the farm where they could raise their children. But according to Zach, the discussions didn't unfold the way they had expected. In one particularly emotional conversation on the show, Zach suggested that the deal being offered did not align with what he believed was fair or workable for his family. While Zach did not disclose specific financial figures, he made it clear that the negotiations left him feeling frustrated and hurt. Eventually, Zach and Tori made a major life decision. Instead of staying near the farm in Oregon, they moved their family to Washington State. That relocation marked a symbolic shift. For the first time since the show began, one of the Roloff children had essentially stepped away from the property that defined their childhood. And for many fans watching the situation unfold, the big question became, if Zach wasn't going to buy the farm, would Jeremy step in instead? Unlike his brother, Jeremy Roloff has not publicly detailed every aspect of the negotiations. But over the years, he has shared insights that give clues about his thinking. Jeremy has spoken openly about his desire to build something meaningful for his own family. However, he has also emphasized the importance of independence. Since leaving the show in 2018, Jeremy and Audrey have focused heavily on their own entrepreneurial ventures. They've built a brand around marriage advice, faith-centered living, and family values. They've written books, launched podcasts, and developed digital courses focused on relationships. In other words, their professional lives today look very different from the agricultural business environment of Roloff Farms. For Jeremy, stepping into ownership of the farm would likely require a massive shift in priorities. Running Roloff Farms isn't simply about owning land. It means managing operations, maintaining infrastructure, coordinating seasonal tourism events, and overseeing staff. That kind of responsibility would dramatically reshape Jeremy's day-to-day life. And according to some of the comments he and Audrey have made over time, that reality appears to play a significant role in their hesitation point. One of the most overlooked aspects of the Roloff Farms conversation is the financial reality behind the property. When Matt Roloff listed a portion of the farm for sale in 2022, the asking price reportedly approached $4 million. For fans who had watched the show for years, that number sparked immediate debate. Some believed the price reflected the value of the land and the unique features Matt had built over decades. Others argued that it placed the property far out of reach for the next generation. But beyond the purchase price itself, owning Roloff Farms would come with substantial ongoing costs. Large properties require constant maintenance. Buildings need repairs. Land requires management. Taxes and insurance on a property of that size can be significant. And then there's the seasonal tourism business. Pumpkin season alone brings thousands of visitors to the farm every year. While that creates revenue opportunities, it also demands a massive amount of planning and operational work. For Jeremy and Audrey, who are raising 3 young children, the question becomes not just whether they could afford the farm, but whether they want the lifestyle that comes with it. While Jeremy grew up on Roloff Farms, Audrey did not. Her relationship with the property developed later, after she and Jeremy began their life together. Over the years, Audrey has often spoken about her love for intentional living, family traditions, and building meaningful experiences. But she has also emphasized something else repeatedly: the importance of protecting family rhythm. In podcast conversations and interviews, Audrey has talked about designing a life that allows their family to stay connected, creative, and grounded. Owning a large public attraction like Roloff Farms could potentially complicate that vision. Pumpkin season alone requires intense involvement for weeks at a time. Crowds, logistics, and business demands could significantly change the structure of their family life. And according to comments Audrey has made publicly, she appears to approach big decisions with a strong focus on long-term impact. Buying Roloff Farms would not simply be a real estate purchase. It would define the next chapter of their family's life. As news spread about the failed negotiations and the property listing, social media quickly became a battlefield of opinions. Fans of Little People, Big World began debating what had gone wrong. Some viewers sided with Matt Roloff, arguing that he had every right to sell the property at market value. After all, he had spent decades building the farm into a successful business. Others believed this situation represented a missed opportunity for the family to preserve the farm as a shared legacy. Comments across Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit revealed strong emotions from longtime fans. Many expressed sadness that none of the Roloff children appeared likely to take over the property. Some even suggested that the situation highlighted deeper family tensions that viewers had only glimpsed on television. Meanwhile, Jeremy and Audrey continued sharing their life through social media, but without directly addressing every speculation circulating online. Their posts focused primarily on family milestones, parenting moments, and their growing business ventures. Still, the question kept resurfacing. Would Jeremy and Audrey eventually buy the farm? Or had that possibility quietly faded? For Matt Roloff, the farm has always represented a dream brought to life. For Jeremy and Zach, it represents childhood memories. But as the next generation builds their own families and careers, the farm now stands at a crossroads. The reality is that inheriting a legacy property can be both a blessing and a burden. On one hand, it offers the opportunity to preserve family history. On the other, it can create expectations that don't always align with personal goals. Jeremy and Audrey appear to be navigating that exact dilemma. They clearly respect the importance of Roloff Farms, but they are also building a life that exists largely outside its boundaries. And for Audrey especially, the decision may not simply be about sentiment. It may be about whether the future they envision truly includes the responsibility of managing one of reality television's most famous farms. By the time negotiations over Roloff Farms became public knowledge, longtime viewers of Little People, Big World already knew something had shifted inside the family dynamic. For years, the Roloffs had presented themselves as a tight-knit group navigating life together, even through disagreements. But when the possibility of one of the children purchasing the farm began to fall apart, the tension became harder to ignore. The most visible sign of that tension emerged during conversations between Matt Roloff and his sons about the future of the property. While Matt had long talked about the dream of passing the farm down to the next generation, he also made it clear that the property was a business, and one he had spent decades building. From Matt's perspective, the farm had real financial value. And when the time came to consider selling part of it, he appeared to approach the situation from a business standpoint. But from the perspective of his children, especially Zach and Jeremy, the farm was something more personal. It was home. It was the place where they grew up. It was the setting for many of the memories that millions of viewers watched unfold on television. And when negotiations didn't work out, that difference in perspective seemed to deepen the emotional divide. Zach spoke openly about feeling hurt by how the discussions unfolded. Jeremy, while less vocal publicly, appeared to take a more private approach, choosing not to reveal the full details of the conversations. Still, fans who followed the family closely could sense that something fundamental had changed. The idea that one of the Roloff children would automatically inherit the farm was no longer certain. Another factor that complicates the Roloff farm story is the influence of reality television itself. For more than 15 years, the property served as a central backdrop for Little People, Big World. Millions of viewers watched family milestones take place on the farm. Birthday parties, family arguments, major life transitions. Because of that exposure, Roloff Farms became something unusual, a private family property that also functioned as a public cultural symbol. Fans around the country developed emotional connections to it. In some ways, the farm became almost as recognizable as the Roloff family members themselves. But that level of public attention also created pressure. When family business decisions became intertwined with television storylines, every disagreement risked being amplified. What might have been a private negotiation between family members suddenly became a topic of public debate. Viewers speculated about motives. Online discussions tried to analyze who might be right or wrong. And as the show continued documenting aspects of the situation, the personal and professional sides of the Roloff family life became increasingly difficult to separate. For Jeremy and Audrey, who had already stepped away from the show in 2018, that environment may have played a role in their thinking. Purchasing Roloff Farms could potentially pull them back into the public spotlight surrounding the property. And after intentionally building a life outside of reality television, that possibility may not align with their long-term vision.